if you're going to take advantage of the AI economy, you need to modernize your infrastructure. I think it's really important to understand that we are not a one-trick pony at Cisco. That the way to become relevant is you connect that to the need of the business and not just the need of the technology.
Hello and welcome to the SE-led AI Partner Podcast, Cisco's premier for SE by SE podcast, where we talk to our peer SE partner SEs as well as the SE leaders. And you guessed it, I am also an SE. My name is Zain Mirza, excited for today's session today. I'd like to welcome in Pat Bodin. Pat's an AI architect. He's a trailblazer in the industry, and really his vision is to see complex accessible. So Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Zane. I appreciate you having me, and I'm really looking forward to talking to the SE community today.
Pat, yeah, and we're excited to have you. And one of the things I'm really juiced about is really your background is a little unique, right? Or you've actually been to the mountaintop on two different industries. You're obviously a CCIE, but you're also a chartered accountant and a CCA. So it's a unique background, and I love it. I'd love for you to talk and share some of those insights about your journey.
Sure. Hey guys, again, it's Pat Bodin. My background's varied because I started in a career many, many decades ago, which was accounting. So in the United States, a licensed accountant that has a bachelor's and a master's degree is called a certified public accountant. That was the first career I had, and I worked with what was called then a Big 8 firms. So it tells you my age. Today, we currently have Big 4 firms. I came to IT in the 90s, as a lot of accountants did. Most came in the software. I actually came in the hardcore infrastructure back in the day and worked at a company called Lockheed Martin, which was a defense contractor. It was a great place to become an engineer because we have more toys than God. And it was an amazing experience to be able to really have the opportunity to learn so much. And then later in the 90s, I actually became a CCIE. So my one claim to fame is still the case. I'm the only CPA, certified public accountant, that's ever been a CCIE. I think financially, I think business-wise, and I weaponize technology to solve problems. That's who I am, and I look forward to talking to you guys more about that today.
Yeah, Pat, I love that because, as you know, as SEs, we are ninjas, right? And we have to adapt on the fly sometimes. So having different backgrounds and really catering to your audience when you're presenting something, maybe when you're talking to them, is so important. So I really love the fact that you're very technical when you need to be, but you can be very business oriented. And sometimes you got to find that perfect balance, that sweet spot as that intersection. So I thought that very unique, and I'm sure the audience is as well. So Pat, by the way, in your book, I read it and I really loved it. And I wanted to hone in on a topic you talked about, is really being a domain expert, right? So fill in the gap for us. What does that really mean? Can you define that and just talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Hey, so the book is called Get in the Boat, A Journey to Relevance. It's really for engineers and how they define their relevance and be able to communicate more effectively with the leadership in either their organization or in their customer environment. So it's really built for SEs and how they actually be relevant in those environments. What is a domain expert? Domain expert is a person who has a command of their domain. A domain could be human resources. It could be accounting. It could be continuous improvement. It could be, technology. It could be networking and technology. It could be computing. So these are all domain expertise we have. One of the challenges I've seen in AI, artificial intelligence, is there's often a lack of having the domain experts that have the knowledge of what do we need to have that we haven't seen before, and then what does good look like when we see what we get. And so when I talk about it, I presented at Cisco Live last year with Worldwide Technologies, one of our largest partners, and one of their SEs. And what we talked about was really this understanding of what a domain expert is, and how do we understand what their needs are, and how do we communicate with them in a way that allows them to get the value of AI in a way that is impactful. In business and in continuous improvement, I am an expert. At the end of the day, I am, because of AI and the things I do, which we'll talk about today, I am 500x better than I was 2 years ago. The domain experts will be the ones that can actually be able to say that. And AI will be able to provide us the road to be able to get there. So I'm excited about working with domain experts in our accounts and make sure that we can help them have more impact than they've had in the past.
So Pat, that's great insight, and thank you for sharing. And just to unpack that for a second here, domains can be different to different people, right? And does it just kind of start off with knowing the vocabulary, the terminology of an AI use case? Is that where we can kind of start from?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, one of the challenges for a lot of people is how do you actually understand what the business needs are and what are the use cases required for the business to be able to have impact. One example of that is one of the things we sometimes say at Cisco, we kind of get confused at times about what a use case is, what a business use case is, and what is a technical thing we need to do. An example of that would be zero trust. Zero trust is a really important concept for our customer base, but it is not a business use case. And so
Right.
as we start thinking about what we need to be able to do and impact our customers' businesses, we need to understand what the domain experts' our needs are, and therefore we need to communicate not just in IT where we often spend our time, but outside of IT in a way that can impact their actual business, which will be people that have a different domain expertise than you have and then your traditional customers has. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because things like vocabulary, terminology, use cases vary. And sometimes something you may think of a use case, it really isn't even, right? So talking about what's relevant to our customer base is really, really important. So thanks for sharing that. So
No worries.
so so Pat, as we jump into a little bit about the broader picture, really Cisco, right? One of our superpowers here at Cisco is our portfolio, and we have end-to-end sometimes integrations with everything, right? But as we have that, it also has to align with our AI methodology, AI framework. So how do we show up using that Cisco portfolio, that one Cisco message, with both our partners and our customers alike?
Yeah. I mean, we have a new strategy called One Cisco, which allows us to be able to take three pillars and be able to connect them together in a way that actually makes sense. I think as you think of AI, I think it's really important that we don't think that that's in one of those pillars or one of those places. So AI is not just in data center, it's in security. It's not just in security, it's in collaboration and what we do in contact center. And it's not just there, it's also permeates our networking space. So as you think about AI, think about it in a much larger scope. I actually built an application recently that actually showcased every single one of Cisco's technology and be able to run that SaaS-based application across that entire architecture. I think it's really important to understand that we are not a one-trick pony at Cisco, and we, the partner SEs on the call and the Cisco SEs, need to realize there's an opportunity to be able to have across the entire architectural space for AI. And I think at the end of the day, I think one of the challenges is this is a little bit like 1999. Those that are old as I am realize that the internet was kind of at its beginning at that point. And there's great opportunities. People were doing online banking, but they weren't actually, most users were not using it until 10 years later. At the end of the day, we're the same way in AI, and there's great opportunities, but we need to understand it's going to permeate across everything we do and what we've, in its augmentation of who we are. And I think when we understand that as SEs, we'll be able to use this technology in a way that actually can impact our organizations in a very positive way.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. And when we look at just Cisco's architecture, right, or portfolio, we have obviously our enterprise networking, we have security, we have collaboration, and then we also have obviously data center, right? And we're not talking about AI as an architecture, right, Pat? We're talking about it as it being an embedded feature, embedded functionality of that architecture. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely can be the case. So AI can be actually inside the devices using classical AI, which we call, for example, would be predictive analytics. It could actually be generative AI, and so the way we do assistance and what kind of message you want to communicate with the network in itself. I have customers today that are creating digital twins of their networking environments. If you're not familiar with that, you guys should be familiar with that. SEs, especially Cisco, but definitely our partners as well, have a core expertise and domain expertise when it comes to networking. Are you aware that your customers today are creating digital twins of that environment to be able to track that across its life cycle? So there's all kinds of things we can do in AI that'll have positive impact on our customers. And I look forward to you guys augmenting your current skill base to be able to support that mission with our customers and the other organizations we work with.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And as we kind of jump and shift a little bit about just those customer conversations, Pat, we have a lot of customers across a lot of different segments, and we can't really be expected as SEs to know it all, right? Be a SME of them all. How do we sort of approach this conversation well when we're not those experts, right? How do we approach those conversations?
Yeah, it really comes down to expectation. You're not expected to be an expert in the business. That's not what you guys are, what your background is. It's not what the customer's expecting from you. But the way I actually talk about this is I call it the T-shape attribute or the T-shaped leadership. And so the T, by the way, is made like this, right? So you have a center bar or an I bar, and you have a crossbar. Now, in that model, the I bar is your deep domain expertise. It's what is expected of you, and this is why SEs sometimes are confused when they do great things within their particular domain, and nobody cares. They're wondering why did great things? Why didn't they care? The reason is the I bar is table stakes. If you do that, you'll gain credibility. If you can't do that, you'll lose credibility. The crossbar is how you impact the organization you're in. So an example of that would be, say you're in healthcare and you're an expert in wireless, and you know how to make wireless work, whether it's Wi-Fi 6, 7, whatever version we're working with. But if you don't have an understanding of EHR, and say they're running Epic in their environment, and you don't know how that would impact the wireless you've created in that environment, and more importantly, you don't care how that works, the leaders of that organization will not find you relevant. Even though you're credible, they will not find you relevant. So at the end of the day, it's really critical to understand what's expected and what's not. The I bar is table stakes. It is what gets you credibility as an engineer. The crossbar is what makes you relevant. So how do you impact the rest of the organization? How do you do that in a way that's unexpected? And that's how you'll be able to create value. I'll give you an example of that. When you see this happen, you'll know that you're going towards relevance. I quote a part of my book that happened in the early 90s. One of the so we often I was in DoD, Department of Defense contracting. We often saw colonels that come by, and actually because we were working F-16, F-22, we would often see them come in and actually talk to us about what they're doing in their environment. We didn't see general officers or generals very often. One day, a general came up to me. I was a technologist working on the Unix systems. We're building airplanes. So I was the IT guy.
Mhm.
So the general came up to me and said, "Son," this is a long time ago. He said, "Son, what do you do?" And I said, "I build military aircrafts." He goes, "Son, you're going to go a long ways." I understood that what the value I brought to the organization was the ability to use technology to solve problems. But I never lost my mission, which is our job was to build military aircraft. And I always understood that. And that is the key. If you're going to be relevant as an SE, understand what the mission of the organization you're in is and the customer's requirements are so you can actually positively impact them and be relevant. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, that makes a ton of sense because it's about relevancy and credibility, but you need to be both, right? You can't be credible and not be relevant. That doesn't really make a ton of sense. You need to be both to really have those effective relationships.
That's
Um,
correct.
and you know, you said it right, Pat. The environment in the DoD in that space is just different structured. So having that relevance credibly is ultra important. So love that. Um, I actually did some research before this, Pat, and in Cisco's readiness report, it's funny, and it kind of stuck out to me. 97% of all customers, they really want to leap into and take that leap into AI, right? But with that 97%, only 13% are actually ready to do it. So there's a big gap there. There's a big disconnect there, right? Explain to the audience a little bit, Pat, of why that is and how do we make sense of all that?
Yeah, it's a great call out in the readiness report from Cisco. I find it to be true, guys. I've been in front of several hundred customers in the last, two months, and what I found to be the case is that almost every single situation that's the case. So at the end of the day, our customers all want to be able to utilize an AI in an effective way. The problem we have, and I think this is what's keeping them tempered, is according to Rand Corporation of August of last year, 80% of AI projects are failing, which is double the rate of traditional IT projects. So they're seeing the failure rate, and they're also not prepared and they haven't modernized their infrastructure. That's the key word. If you're going to take advantage of the AI economy, you need to modernize your infrastructure, whether that's networking, compute, security, whatever it is. So at the end of the day, the customers haven't done that yet. So there's a great opportunity for those in this particular industry. What I find the most important thing, most of the people we work with in our accounts, aka IT, often do not have a place because they're often not relevant. They don't have a place in the centers of excellence in AI in their own organizations. So I had a customer recently tell the SEs that were on this particular account, time and time again for the last year, are you doing AI? The answer came back every time, no. About 2 weeks ago, they came back and said, yes, and we're going to use another vendor to be able to support that. What happened there? What happened is the IT people we were working with were not in control of that conversation, and they were not part of the center of excellence in that situation. So at the end of the day, we have to broaden our conversations, and we have to be able to help them provide guidance so that we can support them in their use cases and make sure they can make AI work for them. And by the way, make that number go from 80% down to something at least below where IT traditionally is. And there's a number of reasons why that's the case. But one of those is the lack of business use cases and the lack of understanding of what the business needs in that particular situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it, Pat. And thanks for the insight there, because I just want to take a step back for a second, because I've had these conversations. A lot of the SEs have had them. We're having these AI conversations, but guess what? We're talking to the wrong people. Those personas change, right? They're not your typical network infrastructure people. Sometimes they're your sec DevOps, your net DevOps folks. So those conversations are happening, but they're not landing because they're with the wrong personas. So I think you hit it right on the head. Where like, know who you're talking to, and take that talk track and make it relevant for them, right? So I love again that you said that. And so Pat, as I kind of jump in a little bit and make this conversation even more engaging, you've done a lot of great work. You're renowned for the tooling and framework, right? The things that you've used have been instrumental. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what that looks like, how we start that conversation, and how we as an SC community can evangelize some of that?
Yeah, for me, what I've done is I think this is unique. I don't use that word lightly. I think at the end of the day, what I've done is I've taken models I've learned over the last 40 years, whether it's like SWOT, which came out, the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that came out in 1954, or TOES that came out, which is a analysis on a SWOT, that came out in 1982. I've actually known these and a number of other models for most of my entire career. And my job when I was an accountant was to do some of these and actually work with customers and be able to understand and navigate that particular situation or that environment. So I've been using these models for a long time. Unfortunately for a lot of AI people, they don't have these long business models that actually provided value for years. And so what I do is really unique is I do this thing called the 30 and 30. And so I honor these models that we've had for 70, 100 years. And I actually use those and apply those in my model. And here's what it allows me to do. And this is, I don't think anyone else in the world can claim this today. I can provide any customer, bespoke to them, tailored to them, 30 potential AI initiatives with 90 business use cases in 30 seconds. And
Wow.
what that allows you to do is it allows you to understand the opportunities that are in front of you. So it's a wide net intentionally. I can fine tune that net. This is a data model I built. And so that fine tuning can actually be to the IT organization itself, or it can be to the actual priorities of the business itself. But to be able to do that and do that in a narrow period of time, which, these historically, these reports that I'm building would usually take 2 to 3 weeks, and we would charge customers $100,000 to do these. This is happening in literally mere minutes, and we're able to provide value to the customer. And we have a conversation with the customer that is unique. It's a value exchange. When the customer sees that, they're saying, I had one yesterday. The customer said, I had no idea that you guys were involved in AI. But more importantly, how the hell did you create this SWOT analysis that has incredible impact on my own business? And this is exactly what my CEO was asking me about yesterday. So we created value that was way beyond what we historically do, which allowed us to be able to actually take down the data center opportunity that was in front of us. So we have to create value. We have to be relevant. And that's what I've done with 30 and 30. And I'm so excited to get in front of your customers. And we've had tremendous impact across US commercial. And we look forward to doing that around the world.
So is that across verticals, Pat, or is that across customers? Because per vertical, if it's per customer, that's amazing.
It is across any organization at all because I use business models, not technology models, to be able to solve the problem. So this could be from Lockheed Martin, where I used to work, which is a DoD contractor, to Chick-fil-A. Doesn't matter the organization, doesn't matter the industry. Now, when we decided that wide net and we drilled down to something they want to do, we need a partner that has industry skills, that have done the use cases we're talking about, that can deliver and can turn that wrench. So at the end of the day, we are very dependent on having partners that understand the industry, that understand how to be able to deliver on that use case. But the good news is we can throw a wide net to get them to ideate and understand the opportunities in front of them, which is game changing when it comes to these businesses where they create centers of excellence and their whole intention in their job is to do exactly what I'm doing with 30 and 30.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just thinking out loud here. I can name about 5 of my customers who they don't even know their use cases, right? And you're talking about bringing that in 30 use cases in 30 seconds. That's game changing. And so thanks for sharing some of that. And candidly, it's information that we as SEs are just not privy to a lot of times, right? So thanks again for sharing that, Pat. All right, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit here. We're gonna play a little game. What I like to call it, it's called Two Facts and an AI Hot Take. So what I'd love for you to do, Pat, is if you would please name out 3 statements, fact or fiction, hot take or not, and I want to be able to call them out as either a fact or a hot take. I'm gonna put myself on the spot a little bit, so please don't judge me. But let's go. Let's get this going. Let's roll.
Today, we have the opportunity to be able to do image generation with AI. That is perfect, that we can actually do the lettering in our images and we can actually be able to actually get exactly what we're looking for. And we can do that today. Fact or something else.
I want to say, based on some of the ChatGPT advancements today and just the latest release, I think that is a fact because I did actually test it with you this week, right? So that I think it's a fact.
Oh my God. It is a fact in the last 2 weeks. It's exciting. It's amazing what this industry is doing. And that's profoundly impacting my own work.
That's amazing, and I will say, I will candidly admit, I was a little shocked that this is AI or is this human generated, and it was AI. So I was astounded and I was shocked, and I really it comes back to who knows what the future can hold, right? We're moving so fast in this industry, and it's fluid. It's super cool. So it's really cool to be a part of what's happening right now, especially as part of Cisco.
So the majority of AI projects today are generating significant return on investment.
I would say that is
Or something else.
I would say that's a hot take. That's not true.
That's a hot take. That's absolutely the case. Most of our customers are struggling without actually how to measure impact. And so I get asked a lot from senior leaders in our customer environments, how would you measure? And that's what I do a lot of. And by the way, it's a simple answer. How long does it take the human to do? Measure the differential, what the AI can do. And if you do that, you'll be able to start your return on investment based on the amount of money you spent to be able to create that solution. Okay, last one. Your customers will be doing AI, as a matter of fact, in 10 years.
That is 100% a fact. And I think that's the case just because a lot of them have interest. We talked about the readiness report, right? And it's on us to really mentor them, or us to be mentored by them, and to help in that process. And who better to do it than us at Cisco, right? Just the things that we're doing, the things that G2 has kind of talked about with AI defense, and us. And the thing I really think about, something that G2 mentioned, was for companies who want to be irrelevant, they're not talking AI, right? They're gonna fade away. But the companies in the future who are can be very relevant for the foreseeable future, AI is native to them, right? It's part of their culture, it's part of their DNA, and so I would say that is a fact.
And I would absolutely agree. And by the way, if you're not currently augmenting your skill base, the domain expertise you've earned, you have the credibility. If you're not augmenting with that in the next decade, I hope you are going to retire in the next 10 years because you won't be able to continue and have the same success you've had in the past. So I absolutely fact, in my opinion.
Awesome. Thank you for playing my little fun game. I thought it was informative. And by the way, this was all on the fly, so it was even more real than it was. And I kind of thought I was going to lose, but I feel like I did my research a little bit before today. So Pat, as we kind of go into our last question, I just want to first and foremost thank you for your time. This has been amazing. And I think that you hit on a lot of good things, right? We hit on really customer conversations, the true Cisco message, the Cisco One message, and how we kind of come together and how to kind of address some of the challenges that we have today. So to the audience, Pat, what is the things that you think that we can kind of take away to really just get the next step going, right? What is the first step in this journey? We learned a lot through just the framework and tooling, but what would you say the first step is to really expound on some of the discussion of today?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, and it goes back to my book. There's a reason it's called Get in the Boat, the Journey to Relevance. At the end of the day, really, how do you become relevant in your own accounts? How, as an SE, do you become relevant? The first thing you do is you actually start understanding your customer's business. You actually start understanding the need that they have with you. So, what is the thing you know or you need to know that they, from a technology perspective, that you can gain credibility in that account with them? Whatever that is, networking, security, whatever the tool you have a mastery of, that's your domain. Well, how can you make sure that you have all the credibility required when you can solve the problems they need? And you understand that's not enough. You understand that the way to become relevant is you connect that to the need of the business and not just the need of the technology. I think that's critical. Also, I will tell you the most important thing is make sure you are a mentor. You are mentoring people in your own organization. You are mentoring your customer. By the way, and let your customer mentor you. I learned cloud native architectures by my customer who I sold to. And they told me everything I needed to know about Kubernetes. We actually spent months and months together while I sold them data center technology. And they explained to me exactly how cloud native architectures work, which gave me the starting point I needed to be able to talk about Hypershield and the way we do at Cisco. So at the end of the day, make sure you have a mentor relationship with your customer and then you allow them to mentor you because value comes from every location and everybody can learn from every single person. So as you start thinking about that, what value do you bring to the conversation? What is your 30 and 30?
Yeah, that's profound, Pat. And we can obviously use some of these tools that you've done an amazing job with. And really, like that's the SE, right? Being that true trusted advisor, and not just being someone that provides tools, but really going on a journey with them. So thank you for that. So guys, we heard it from Pat. We're gonna wrap it up here, and hopefully you enjoyed this discussion as much as I did and learned as much as I did, because I really did. I want to say to the team, please do join us on our next session where we actually are gonna continue the AI discussion with Dr. Gaurav Khanna and John Cuneo. I'm your host, Zain Mirza. I hope you enjoyed today's session and look forward to the next one. Thank you.